Welcome to the Dear Doc podcast, where we will discuss the business of running a dental practice with a panel of experts. Now, your host, Dr. Christopher Hoffpower.
Hey guys, this is Doc Huffbauer coming to you from my home studio here in Alvin, Texas. Really excited to be bringing on Mark Dilatush. And Mark specializes in helping practices go fee for service, which many of you know is a particular passion of mine because, man, I hate insurance companies with a burning passion. Over the last year, I've noticed that a lot of you guys have decided that you want to drop insurances, but you're not sure how, and maybe you're a little bit afraid. And so I thought maybe by bringing Mark on, we could have a great discussion about how people can get out of this insurance hamster wheel. So without further ado, Mark, how the heck are you today?
Hey, Doc, how are you? Doing good.
Doing great over here.
I'm always happy to talk to doctors about insurance and marketing and getting out of insurance. Always happy.
Well, it's definitely a passion of mine. I was able to go fee for service many years back, but I found that I made a whole lot of mistakes when I did it. I looked at it, and I know I look at it a little bit differently than some people. I actually ran the numbers to find out what insurance was costing me the most money. I made an assumption, which was an overly aggressive one, I admit, but I assumed that half of my patients would fall off the books. And so if that insurance company was costing me so much money that I could see half of those patients at full fee and make more money or the same money, it was an obvious choice to drop that one. Unfortunately, even though I did go about it in a very organized manner, the one thing I didn't know, and it's those things you don't know that bite you in the butt, which is why Mark is here, because he's going to keep you guys safe while you attempt to go fee for service. The thing I didn't know is these third-party bundlers, Mark. Zealous bit me in the butt because I was in again, out again, and it's not, guys. If you read the book Influenced by Cialdini, he'll tell you it is not excellent service that people seek, even though they think they want that. What they seek is predictability. And we didn't lose any patients, like literally any patients at all, until we got picked back up by Zealous on some of the insurances that we had dropped. And then all of a sudden I was having to have conversations with these patients about, hey, we're in again, out again. What's going on? I was confused by it. They were confused by it. Patients don't like to be confused. Mark, what are your thoughts on this? And how can people avoid making that same mistake?
Wow. Okay. I don't think you made a mistake.
I should have dropped Zealous first. or altered my contract,
Right. I mean, ultimately, the bottom line is really, you didn't really make a mistake because you successfully transitioned away into fee for service, and you're probably working less hours and probably have a better standard of living, right?
Absolutely.
So, okay, right. So I don't think you made a mistake. I can speak to the main mistakes we see all the time. I own New Patients Inc. It's a marketing firm, and dentists will come to us when they need more new patients more than anything, right? And a lot of times we do an analysis beforehand, and we'll look and we'll ask them questions like, well, how many new patients are you getting a month now? And they'll say something like 30, and it's a single doctor practice, right?
Right.
And immediately the red flags go up in our mind, because 30 new patients, you should be
doing fine.
You should be asking me how to find help,
right.
and how to get more operatories, and how do I do endo? And yet those are the questions you should be asking, not how do I get more new patients? So we dig down a little bit and we have conversations, and they say, well, I'm in this insurance, and that insurance. And of course we say, well, are you planning on expanding? Are you planning on getting an associate? Are you planning on transitioning, retiring, what have you? And a lot of times the answer is no. They just want to have a better career,
Right.
right? They want to
Absolutely.
work the same. They just want to work the same or maybe less hours, pay off their debt, take care of their family, and have hobbies and a life, outside of the practice, which that's not unreasonable, right? So, so once we figure out that really what we're dealing with here is an insurance transition, that it's not really, I need more insurance patients so I can run faster on the hamster wheel, as you put it, right? Okay, so once we do that, then we start really to go to work on okay, doc, if this is what you want, this is what you're looking at. And I wrote a book, I wrote a guide on how to do this. Everybody listening can just, it's a free copy, you can just go grab it. But basically, I guess the purposes of this podcast is to give you the Cliff Note version of it. Is you do it in a measured manner. Your expectations are 24 to 36 months. Like if you're 50% insurance based, it's going to take 2 or 3 years for you to crawl yourself out. Okay.
Well, if you want to have a practice on the other side, yes.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And there's some really famous consultants out there who. So you mentioned mistakes. Okay, the number one mistake we see is listening to a consultant who says, "Go cold turkey. Call all of them, send them all your letter. You're resigning January 1st. You're not going to participate with that." And unfortunately, many of those people 6 months later, 1 year later, their revenues, like they didn't even prepare. They just stopped the funnel of the phone calls. And they didn't prepare their staff wasn't prepared, the doctor wasn't prepared. And they panicked and they would call us. Right? I was like, no, don't do that. And I here, take my guide, let's start all over again. So in a nutshell, the right way to do it, and it's actually fun. It's an amazing experience for the right dental team. The way you do it is and what I put in my guide, Doc, is different than what you recommend or what you did.
Absolutely.
And that's fine.
You actually go from the opposite direction, which actually decreases the pain points in the practice.
Right. Well, that's right. So we don't go by money. We look for the most humans. So how many humans do you have assigned or that have this certain insurance? And you'll run all your insurance reports, and let's say, I'm just going to use round numbers. Let's say you have 500 patients in Delta, 300 patients in Prudential, 200 patients in Cigna, and 100 patients in whatever, some other plan that you participate with. And those are the 4 or 5 plans that you participate with. So what you do with that list then is you flip it upside down. And you start working on the insurance plan that provides you with the least amount of patients.
That makes perfect sense.
Okay, so for the doctors out there. Okay.
So well, before we go on, I want to define something because I think that this definition is actually, when this popped into my head, I realized I could go fee for service. I was looking at these insurance plans and I realized how much of a haircut I was taking. I was taking a 50% haircut on one of them. And I realized that my profit margins weren't 50%. If my profit margins had been 50%, I still would have been losing money. So I realized that what I was looking at was a bad ROI on marketing. Because that's
exactly what I was just going to say.
Marketing.
Right.
Fantastic.
Right.
It's actually the least efficient, most expensive type of marketing that any dental practice can engage in. And I'm glad to see you were already going there. I'm sorry if I stole your thunder on that one. So
no. It's actually a segue. What I was going to say is you use insurance for what it's good for. It's good for, let's say, a startup. you have zero patients. You don't even have friends. Okay.
Right.
You have zero patients that can come into your practice, and you need the phone to ring because your school loan is $8,000 a month and your practice loan is $5,000 a month, and you need to make $80,000. You need to produce $80,000 a month just to make that done. Okay. So you use insurance. You might sign up for 5 of those plans, and you get calls and patients and calls and patients and calls and patients. And that's great to fill your capacity, get your cash flow going, get yourself to a certain point. But once you get to that capacity, you start weaning yourself off of insurance.
Absolutely.
Right? So you're absolutely correct. It is absolutely 100% the most expensive form of advertising possible for any dentist to do. Okay. But the cool thing about it from a dentist perspective is it's free.
No, it's not free.
No.
Very, very expensive.
Hold on. Okay.
No, I understand.
I know.
It's a misguided.
I know it's
viewpoint.
not free.
Right.
I know it's not free, but I don't have to take money out of my pocket.
Right.
Okay. That's that. Okay. So from that standpoint, and there's really no commitment on my part. There's no commitment. All I have to do is answer my phone.
You don't
Right.
have to write a check. I think the problem.
You don't
is
have to
that
write a check.
They
Right,
associate
exactly,
writing a
exactly.
check with the losses, but they're just
I know.
I liken it to so doctors who take insurance and complain that they need more patients. I liken it to somebody who's drilling holes in the bottom of a rowboat and bailing at the same time, because that's exactly what you're doing. You are diluting more and more the amount of money that you're making per procedure. And that's another thing. Most doctors don't even understand what each procedure costs. They haven't timed it. They haven't looked at what their COGS is. Until you look at your cost of goods sold, you can't make an informed decision about anything, much less the ROI on advertising, particularly one that actually is costing you money on many of these procedures. So
no, that's 100%. Yeah, 100%. So anyway, the transition piece is, all right, let's get the least number of humans that has this insurance. Okay. Then the first goal is that first insurance company. We're at some point in our life, we're going to call that insurance company or send them the letter we've been dying to send them since you've become a dentist, right? But how do we get there? So the hard part in the transition is starting. What you have to do, and this is the financial hard part. The financial hard part gets easier as you get into this process. It's much easier as you get into this process. But when you first start, let's think about it. You're writing off 23 to 30% of your revenues on insurance participation, and you have to grab 5% of revenues out of your pocket to start funding your market. Because without replacing those patients, you're going to tank. Okay. Or you're taking a much greater risk than you need to. Let's put it that way.
right.
So if you're writing off at a rate of 20 to 30%, and I'm telling you that you can manage a dental practice almost anywhere in this country for 5% of the revenues, okay, through marketing, there's your profit that you're losing. The distance between 5% and 20 to 30%.
Absolutely.
That's what you're gaining by doing this, but it's really hard for a dentist who is already participating to take that 5% out, plan for it, budget for it, and stick to it. That's the hard part, Doc, okay?
Absolutely.
But when you start, what'll happen is you'll start to gain new patients coming in from whatever advertising and marketing that you're doing, and they're going to start replacing those 100 from that first insurance plan that you're trying to get to. So when you replace those 100 with the 100 that you're marketing to, man, it's a party. I mean, it's a team-wide event. I mean, I've had clients take their team to Vegas, okay, just for a celebration when they get to send it. I have doctors who have those letters framed in their personal offices or in their break rooms. And you know who is going to be on board with this the most. It's
Your
the person
insurance
that
coordinator.
oh, your insurance coordinator is going to love you. She's going to be, oh my gosh, she'll bring the balloons and the confetti and everything, man. I mean,
Absolutely.
it's right. So, okay, so now let's say it takes, I don't know, 8 months to replace those 100. Okay, send our letter. Boom, have our party. What's next? The one with 200. Okay, but if you just brought in 100 fee-for-service patients or mostly fee-for-service patients, your revenues are stair-stepping.
Yep.
And you're writing off less. Okay. So now you look at that and go, well, what's 5% of my revenues now? Is my marketing budget going to expand with the same percentage? The answer is yes. Okay. Because if you were doing 600 before, now you're doing 700. 5% of 700,000 is 35,000. It's not 30,000. Okay. So you just keep going in little steps, little baby steps until you take plan 2, plan 3, plan 4. And you replace, the key is replacing the patients before you send the letter. In your case, Doc, you retained a lot of those patients.
I did, but I did it a little bit differently. What I did is I assumed before I would drop an insurance, I wanted to have at least 6 months of conversations with that patient, 2 hygiene checks. Mm-hmm. And I would tell them, look, I have to tell you, your insurance company is really not reimbursing us for what we're doing. And, you know, it's kind of like if someone told you they were going to pay you $15 an hour, but whenever you got the check at the end of the day, you only got $10 an hour, because we're taking at least a 30% haircut on every single one of these procedures. And even though I do have some savings, I'm actually having to come out of pocket to make sure that I give you the same quality care, and so that my team can continue to make what they make. And it's just, it's not fair. And I am so sorry that your insurance company is doing this to you.
Right.
Then I would tell them, one of the things that concerns me the most is that your insurance company many times will simply not pay for some of the treatments that you really need. For instance, implants. Most insurance companies, and yours included, doesn't pay for implants. And so if you want implants, you have to come out of your pocket. Well, it seems to me like that should be something that's included in the plan. What are your thoughts? And then the patients start talking about insurance, because insurance is the bad guy in most parts of our life. So what you do is every story, whenever you're talking to a patient, it's always going to be a story, because stories inform, stories educate, and stories sell. And dentists don't like the word sell, but they sell. So if you create a story where the patient is the hero, okay, you're not the victim, the patient is the hero. Every story also needs a villain or conflict. And so you make the insurance company itself the villain. I can't believe that they didn't pay for this crown for you. I am so sorry that they're doing this to you. Do you want us to get on a call together so that I can tell them why you need this? It's magic, because the patients all of a sudden start seeing you as their knight in shining armor rather than that evil dentist. I mean, let's face it, how many professions in the world is it socially acceptable to look at them in their face right before they give you the service that they're going to give you and say, I hate your guts?
Right.
Only dentistry.
Right.
So unless you
whoa, dental marketing.
Well, you know, it's only if you recreate that story and you tell it from a perspective that allows the patient to be the hero of the story. You're their knight in shining armor, and the insurance company is the big, mean corporate bully that is taking their money and not giving them what they pay for. Dental insurance is the only business I know of personally that their entire business model is predicated upon fucking their customers over. Okay, I'm done off my soapbox. So, but that's how I did it.
No, that's okay. I was around when dental insurance actually happened. It did bring $30 billion in revenues into the industry. It did get people care that otherwise they weren't going to get care.
Right.
Okay. So, but like the housing bubble, like the education bubble we're going through right now, when you push billions of dollars into a market, what happens? Prices go up and efficiencies go down, and here we are. Okay.
Well,
So now they have to figure out how to, because all these people, they all report to a board of directors, they all report to stockholders.
absolutely. But if you do the simple math, so Mark, here's the deal. Truth be told, I was around whenever insurance came out too, but I was way younger than you were. So it was in the 1970s, and they were all indemnity plans. Delta Dental, I believe, was the first, and they offered a $1,500 plan. So
created by a dentist, by the way.
Created by the dentist, exactly. It was all dentists. And so what would happen is you'd go to the dentist, and you could have up to $1,500 worth of coverage, and you'd pay your monthly premium, and you just got your work done. No one complained. And then they realized that they could limit the number of procedures, or they could reduce the reimbursement once they had a bunch of dentists hooked. When they had their hooks into them, they said, hey, look, guys, we're still going to do the same thing, but we can't afford to do it exactly the same, so we're going to reduce the amount we pay for your fillings. But look, we're going to send you all these patients. You've been enjoying that, haven't you? Then the next step was, of course, denials. Our dental expert says that that's not needed. And at first, they were actually dentists. Now they're not even dentists. Now, the clearinghouse is actually a computer that looks at your stuff, and if you don't have every single thing they want to see in it, they kick the claim out immediately. It doesn't even cross someone's desk. You still have rights, though. You know, you can request a dentist review the records. They must actually comply with that in every single state in the United States. They must give you a 1-hour interview at your time of choosing. And when they do this, it costs them between $500 and $750, depending upon how much that dentist charges them to do that review. Everyone should be doing this. So for every single denial, and you put it at an inconvenient time so that the dentist charges more. But all that being said, $1,500 in 1972, or 1974, I can't remember which one it was, is the equivalent of $13,295 today. Their premiums have done nothing but go up. Their reimbursements for treatment have done nothing but go down. And today, the average person has $1,200 of insurance coverage, not $1,500, $1,200. Even though you have the outlying plans like $1,500, and I have one congressman in my practice, those dudes have $50,000 worth of coverage. It's amazing.
Right. Amazing how that works.
Them and the high benefit from the post office. That one's also really, really nice. But my point here, guys, is dental insurance is not just screwing you. They're screwing the patient. In dollar-weighted average, they should be paying $13,000 for the coverage of every single patient. And they can't do that. I mean, the CEO does need his $7 billion salary. I'm off my soapbox again, Mark.
All right, so that's okay. That's all right. So that's all right. No, well, that's fine. We probably don't differ much in our attitude toward dental insurance outside of when a startup comes to us and they say, I don't know, I don't have any friends, I don't have any family, I just moved here because my wife likes it, or whatever the story is. And I don't know, there's a available 1,800 square feet over there, so I just signed a lease, and my whole entire life, can you help me? When they say that to you, right? I'm sitting there going, like, you need 800, and they all want to be as full as they can be, usually within a year. If you ask a startup that they want to, within 1 year, I want to have 32 hours worth of work. It's like, okay, dude, you need 800 patient charts. How are you going to get them?
Right.
Okay, you can either be the most obnoxious human being on earth and run around with your business card, or you're going to have to market the practice, and at acquisition costs, like, you're not right. So these are the conversations that happen with us, right? So in those situations, insurance participation almost always comes up, because I can count on 300 or 400 of those 800 that I need in the first year from insurance participation in most U.S. markets, right? And if I piggyback that into marketing, we get our numbers by the end of the first year, I can start weaning them off, in future years. But that's really how you use insurance. It's not supposed to be a life sentence. It was never.
And I like the way you say that. That's beautiful. I'm stealing that, Mark.
Okay, you can steal that. So now this is probably going to piss off every dentist listening to this. And that's not my objective. My objective is for everyone to truly look at dental insurance for actually what it is. It's a marketing channel. Okay. And the whole reason it exists is because dentists weren't ready or know how to promote dentistry to the consumer. That's why dental insurance exists. Because if dentistry knew how to promote dentistry to the dental consumer effectively, consistently for 5% of their revenues, dental insurance salespeople couldn't go around to all the employers and sell plans. Could they? There would be nothing to sell. But what happened was, concurrent to insurance, actually right after, was the law that allowed dentists to be able to advertise, like lawyers and dentists and medical professionals.
If I'm not mistaken,
before that, it was disallowed.
That was fought here in Texas too. I believe it was goodness. Oh gosh, what was his name? Jack Castle, I believe, was involved in that, as were the owners of Aspen, which allowed them to kind of take a two-pronged approach. It was a couple of smaller DSOs at the time, and a couple of really well-known dentists here. And man, those dentists, it cost them personally a whole lot.
I bet. But those two things happening simultaneously, the removal of the restriction to advertise yourself and dental insurance, those two things happened. Those decisions were made somewhere in a room that you and I can't get into.
Yeah.
And they were done for very specific reasons. But anyway.
So I'm curious.
But
if you've got a guy who comes into you, needless to say, guys, if you're planning on starting a new practice, begin advertising 6 months before you open your doors. It's just stupid not to. Have somebody who's working there 2 months before you open your doors taking appointments. So all that aside, that's the proper way to open a dental practice and hit the ground running. I understand that many of us don't think about that. We just want to get out there and do the work. But you have to be a business person to own a business, or at least you should be one. All of that aside, new dentist comes to you. They've made both of these mistakes. They don't have anybody working for them already, no trained team to take calls. They didn't start advertising, and you tell them, well, you're going to have to take insurance, or they say, hey, I'm going to take insurance. Do you guys have a mediator that you employ to allow them to negotiate these rates, or do you show them how to negotiate them?
We don't internally at NPI. We don't. But we have people we refer to. You probably do too, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Some of them, Unlock the PPO, fantastic folks, but they're, from what I understand, not taking any new clients. And so it's actually a benefit that's very needed. Now, who knows? Maybe I'll start a company doing it. But it's definitely a benefit to these new dentists. Every 2 years or so to everyone who already owns a practice too. You guys should be renegotiating your rates, just absolutely as soon as you're able to renegotiate your rates, you should be renegotiating them.
Yeah, I know there's a qualification period, and I think there's sunset periods too,
right,
to being able to do that. Also, the in-office plans. I don't know if you're a fan.
I love them.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that we ask people who are going through this transition is, do you have one? And if you don't have one,
absolutely,
you kind of want to get one, right?
That in-office plans combined with, so path out of insurance. And you and I actually kind of talked a little bit, and I know we agree on this. Not every dentist should go out of network. And that is because there are some dentists.
No, there's markets where you can't.
Right, absolutely. And there's some dentists who don't want to learn anything new. Guys, I'm going to tell you right now, if you want to go out of network, one of the ways that I was able to drop all my insurance plans was whenever I got to a point where I said, okay, if I drop this plan, I'm not going to be making it up. What I'd do is I'd learn some new procedure. And I'd say, that's the amount of money I had to make up to get out of this network. And then I drop the network. So increasing your skill level, increasing the experience that patients have. Like I said, they want dependability and repeatability more than they want quality, but they do want quality.
Yeah.
But whenever people make decisions, if you look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs, they make decisions based more on fear and pain than they do reward. So comfort and an amazing experience is reward. Fear is inconsistency. So that's why that's more important. But the point is here, if you want to go out of network, you need to provide a way for your patients to actually pay for the treatments that they need. So you need third-party financiers, and you absolutely need something to cement them to your practice, because insurance didn't do that. Them not wanting to go somewhere else because they don't like change did that. If you have something like an in-house payment plan or an in-house insurance plan or a dental savings plan like I have, that actually cements them.
Insurance.
Right. It's not, that's actually illegal. You can't do that in any state.
Right.
So if you do have a dental savings plan or a dental discount plan, whatever you choose to call it, actually, the most clever one I've ever seen was dental assurance plan.
Membership plan. Call it whatever you want. Just don't call it insurance. Right.
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 So guys, God's honest truth. If you want to keep the most patients, all you have to do is remember what it is that drives their their decision-making process. And it's fear, pain, and then finally reward. You cover those three things, or you make it to where they don't have to fear leaving your practice and they don't have to fear change because you've taken care of them. Those are patients for life, people.
Mm-hmm. And that's where your ROI build is. It doesn't come the first 30 days.
Right.
Your ROI build happens over the lifetime of that patient in your practice and their referrals and so on and so forth.
Absolutely. So we are live right now. Usually we don't go live on my podcast, but we did so today just to kind of test the waters. So folks, if you can hear us out there and you're on the business of dentistry right now, if you have any questions at all for Mr. Dilatush, please go ahead and put them down in the comment section, and we'll try to answer them and get to them if we get them before we finish airing this program. Also, Mark, if you'll send me the link to your book, I'll go ahead and I'll post that.
Yeah, it's just newpatientsinc.com, and then there's an education center link at the top, and it's right in there. Okay. You'll see the fee-for-service guide. You'll see Unlimited New Patients Volume 3. Actually, the fee-for-service guide is in that book, and they're free. So just download. We also have audio options there as well. So if you're a listener rather than a reader, you can just go get them. I think they're on Apple iTunes too. So,
fantastic.
Yeah, you can get them almost anywhere.
Obviously, great information that you're offering. So I'm going to try to sit back and shut up, as you can tell. And as you knew, whenever we first talked, I'm really passionate about this subject. So
right.
You've got this dental savings plan. Now what?
Well, I think it's not a one thing. You don't do one thing to get out of insurance. You first understand, like we're probably drilling the point home pretty hard. You understand what it is. It's the world's worst marketing channel. Okay.
Absolutely.
And that's fine. That's it. Nobody's judging anyone for participating in insurance. Then you understand your marketplace. This is something that we do because judging how long it's going to take you to get out of insurance participation really is dictated by, I'm not going to say 100%, but a majority of your success is going to be predicated upon how marketable is your area. And one of the things that you said with the membership plans was, how marketable are you?
Absolutely.
Like what's like, do you refer everything out and just do two surface composites and single crowns all day? Or,
Oh my God, that's my personal version of hell.
I know, I know, but you'd be amazed at how many dentists refer out endo, pedo, ortho, every ist out there. They just keep what's left. So all of that stuff is measured, and what comes out of those measurements is a predictability, right?
Absolutely.
So the predictability, let's say it's an average, we have data for 30 years. So let's say it's an average US market, 1 to 1650. Average dentist with an average scope. I'm not calling any dentist here average. I'm just saying from a number standpoint, everything looks average. You're looking, and they have an average amount of insurance participation in their practice. 2 to 3 years. And if it goes faster, everybody's going to high five each other sooner. That's your only downside. Everything becomes very predictable, very methodical, very team oriented, and it just happens. It's not something to be afraid of, although I do understand the fear. It is definitely something to be planned for. There's a whole other piece of this, Doc. Happens very infrequently, although it does happen. When a dentist will come to us, let's say they're 10, 20 years in, and they're on the hamster wheel.
Absolutely.
And
so I can see you're going to steal hamster wheel. I'm stealing life.
I'm stealing hamster wheel. Right? I'm stealing hamster wheel. Okay, so they're on the hamster wheel, and the thing they fear the most, because there's dentists who want to be solo dentists for the rest of their career. They just if you put a fourth operatory in their practice, their head would explode. Okay.
Right.
But then there's dentists who had this bigger picture in their mind. They wanted to, they start with 3 or 4 ops, but they want to go to 8, 12, 16, want to have an associate. They want to be able to take a vacation, right?
Absolutely.
They want somebody else to cover the emergencies so they can go golfing without their cell phone going off. Like there's a whole bunch of reasons why some dentists would want to, expand. And they're stuck on this hamster wheel themselves, and they're really afraid that if they pull away from insurance, they're not going to be able to get the other piece of their dream. And the answer is there is a hybrid version to this. You can participate with some until you fill the capacity. So the reason I'm even bringing this up again is you use insurance to fill massive holes in capacity. You have 3 capacities in your dental office: number of dentists, hours of operation, and the number of treatment rooms. Those are the 3 capacities in a dental practice. There are no more. Okay. So and dentists will come to us and they'll go, well, I'm a solo dentist and I have 4 chairs. I'm building out my practice. We're building a new facility. We're going to have 8 chairs. I'm going to bring in an associate, and they're going to work 3 days a week. And let's say right now the doctor's fee for service. Okay, 3 days a week, you work 4 days a week. 3 days a week is a 75% increase in capacity. And the dentist, it blows their mind. It totally blows their mind because they're like, what do you mean 75%? So if you have 900 active patients.
Do you think that dentists don't understand what a physical plant is and why they need to maximize it?
I think dentists, most of the dentists that I know, my buddies, are so patient treatment centric. And I think they're totally capable of understanding this stuff completely. I know they are because I teach it to them and they get it and they better their lives. Okay. So I know they can get it, but I think dentistry is so, I'm not a dentist, so this is an assumption on my part, but I think dentistry is so, It's 8 hours of surgery you're doing.
Absolutely.
What medical professional does 8 hours of surgery 4 days a week?
They're not allowed to
200
actually.
and, huh?
Surgeons are not allowed to actually. There are only
I
certain
know,
number of hours that can work.
But I would imagine, and I'm not a dentist, but I would imagine that just pulls all your brain energy, right? And that's what you focus in on. Because most dentists that I know my dentist is, and George, if you're listening, I love you to death. He's probably the worst business person on planet Earth. But I drive an hour and a half through New Jersey to get to him because I know he cares. Right. And I know he's patient centric, and I know the treatment, whatever he's going to do, he's going to take care of it. Right? I think every dentist is capable of doing this. I don't believe that they don't have the aptitude to pick up the business aspects that you pointed out.
Absolutely.
I think they'll pick it up instantly. Honestly.
If the dental schools did a better job of preparing dentists for business, I think that would be an amazing thing. As it is, it's kind of like a self-fulfilling prophecy where you get these professors, many of them haven't practiced for years. They really don't know what the intricacies of insurance are. Now, I know that University of Texas Dental Branch has been making just amazing efforts to increase the students' knowledge and to actually make them see, hey, if you take insurance, this is what you're doing. This is how you file insurance. These are your write-offs. They actually brought me in to speak to one of their classes once, and I got banned because I kicked all the professors out of the room because I brought a spreadsheet with all of my costs and all of my reimbursements. And my whole thing was, I don't want to ever be accused of colluding, right? And right. So the professors, you have to leave. The dental students, you can stay because you're not actually dentist yet. And so this is the right. last chance that someone's going to have to show you the real numbers behind this game. And I was told afterwards by some of the students themselves that I had helped them greatly. The problem is that the schools don't or can't, for the most part, bring that type of an education to the students. It's kind of like saying, hey, look, here's a plane. You can either hire someone to fly it for you, or you can fly it yourself, but we're not going to train you to fly the plane. But we will, we'll introduce you to this guy over here who just paid a whole bunch of money to this school, and he flies planes.
Right.
It's a problem. It's a huge problem, and not to make it too dramatic there with that crash and burn kind of a scenario, but in the past, dentists have only been successful because they make enough money and our profit margin was good enough that they could be complete failures as business owners. And I'm not trying to be ugly to anyone out there, guys, but many of us are complete failures as business owners. The only reason our business still continues to run is because we make so much money. But those days are coming to an end. Please learn to run your practice.
Yeah, we may actually go a little bit in different directions with that.
Please tell me. I welcome.
Yeah. No. Dentistry, and again, this is macro business, not micro business, right? So macro business says dentistry is still one of the top 10 individually owned businesses in America, from many metrics used to measure business, one of which is availability of capital. And if you look at the underwriting risk for a dentist borrowing money, it's like 0.4.
I think like the only thing that's less that is a less risk is actually loaning to veterinarians. I think they actually quite higher. Right. But you're absolutely correct there. But whenever insurance companies start announcing 20% decreases in reimbursement, and you only have a 40% profit margin.
Right, but that's where the business acumen needs to be improved. That's where you say, well, wait a second. And that's where the separation from And I know there's also an emotional need to help, right? It's real. It's okay if they have Medicaid. I want to help this person. I want to help this person. I want to help that person. But sooner or later, someone from the outside has to go to that dentist and say, that's awesome, but you're damaging this, and the other thing. And something's got to give somewhere, right?
In my practice, we actually made a budget for charitable giving and for write-offs. And we stuck to that budget, but included in that budget was insurance write-offs, because I wanted it to be a very stark picture whenever I spoke to my team, and I'd say, I'd love to help Mr. Jones, and we would, but we don't have the budget for it because part of that budget was taken up by these write-offs for the insurance company.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the first way that I started making my team see that insurance was an evil rather than a benefit. And when your team gets behind you, then you can drop insurance. If your team's not behind you and patients start asking questions, you're sunk.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. We're actually running a little bit long here, but I'm enjoying the conversation. As long as you're good, I'm good.
No, I'm good. I just, I think we're on pretty much all the same page. We just got to the same destination in different manners, which should tell the audience it's even more possible than they thought. There isn't one way.
There is no one way to do it.
Exactly. I just know we probably have, I know we have hundreds of Oh, here's another thing. We're going to wrap up the conversation here today. And I would be, if I got off this podcast and didn't say this, I would want to kick myself in the ass later. Because I have dentists that come to me and said, you can't take fee for service. It just doesn't work anymore. And not in my area, not with my patients, I keep hearing all this stuff.
Not with my mindset.
Well, okay, that's different. But I always go back to them with the same thing. There is a full fee for service office in every listener's market.
Absolutely.
How did that happen? If you can't do it, how does that one happen?
Well, I'll tell you.
And
I've had these conversations, and they always tell me, well, yeah, but they did it a long time ago. It was easier back then.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't easy.
But there's always an excuse. When you stop finding excuses and you start finding reasons, you'll be able to drop insurances. And there is, by the way, a huge difference between fee-for-service and out-of-network people. Most dentists who think they're fee-for-service are actually only out-of-network. Out-of-network means that you will still file for your patients and you will still accept assignment. When you don't accept assignment of benefits, 100%, and patients pay cash, 100%, up front, then you are a fee-for-service practice. Now, I will tell you for a fact those are vanishingly rare.
Yes.
And that is more difficult to do every year. But being an out-of-network provider, or as I like to tell my patients, an unrestricted premier provider.
Right.
I stole those words from Christopher Phelps. Brilliant.
Right. I know. Chris Phelps was a client of ours.
He's awesome.
Yeah, he is. I like Chris. Anyway, no, I just didn't want to get off the podcast before I said that. The answer is there's one next to you, and chances are if they did it, you can too. You just when you go to market and replace those patients, this is the big piece of it. When you use that 5% marketing budget, you have to only communicate to only the people in your surrounding area who are most likely going to value dentistry greater than a deductible.
Absolutely. I just tell people you need to stop marketing for new patients, and they'd get all bent out of shape. I tell them you need to market for the right new patients, because
exactly.
when you're in practice, okay, for instance, in my practice, I market for the specific procedures that I want to do because they have a good ROI. You don't market for class 2 fillings? And if you do, can I refer them to you?
Right. Right. Yeah, no, it's so we've done 2 of these. They cost a lot of money. They're wide-ranging consumer studies on how dental consumers make their decisions and why they make their decisions. And once the data, I'll put this on do not disturb. Sorry. When the data comes in, it gets run through what's called a conjoint analysis, which is an analysis tool used with large volumes of data. And I'll give you an example of what it is. There's 4 questions. Let's say the dentist is 15 miles from you. They offer Invisalign. Their prices are medium, and they have some level of technology. So you ask 4 questions, and then they rate the questions. And then you remove one of the questions and you stick a different question in. So you ask 4 questions. The client, the dentist takes your insurance. The dentist is 30 miles from you. And then they ask 2 more questions. So pretty soon you get a model of really what the consumers think. So here's the bottom line to everybody listening to this. 48.6% of the women, and trust me, we're all marketing to women.
Absolutely.
No guys make
whether you believe it or not.
Right. 48.6% of the females from literally every country that participated in these consumer studies will not choose a healthcare provider based primarily on a price point. As a matter of fact, it turns them off. Okay. Yep. Now here's the flip side. 51.4% will. But if you look at all the marketing that dentistry is doing right now for themselves, they're all at the bottom. They're all going, look at my deal. Look at my deal. My postcard has 4 deals. I have this deal and that deal and this deal and that deal. Okay, so all the moms in the bottom are like, yeah, okay, give me a deal. There's even dentists that they group. Anyway, so, but nobody, a plug for us, we're up here. We're promoting to the moms at the top. So if you want to go fee for service, you can't use postcards with multiple deals on them. Those are the same moms who were choosing healthcare providers based on the insurance coverage they have. Those are the moms who called you and said, do you take my insurance? What you want to get is moms calling you and saying, am I a candidate for, I want to see the doctor because something else interested them in you other than, do you take my insurance?
Absolutely.
So if you do that with 5% of your revenues instead of writing off 30%, if you do that over time, you will replace those patients with patients that you as the dentist will actually come to really appreciate, and you'll have better relationships with them. So anyway, I didn't want to go away without saying that too.
Well, Mark, I'll tell you what, it's been a great conversation, and I actually would love to have you on again and talk about maybe some specific strategies. But folks, you can find Mark at Mark website.
Oh, it's newpatientsinc.com. For the guide and unlimited new patients, it's under the Education Center. Excellent. And it's a free download. Just go ahead and download.
Well, Mark, thank you so much for joining us today. It's been truly a pleasure. And for those of you out there, thank you for wasting an hour of your life listening to the sound of our voices droning on about insurance and
yes,
and at the very least my own very, very emotionally charged feelings about them. I hope that you have learned something that helps you. I hope that you've taken something of value from this. Until next time.
Yeah, me too.
This is Dr. Huffpower.
Thanks, Doc.
Signing off. Thank you, Mark.
Thanks for listening to the Dear Doc podcast, your source for the business and legal questions associated with your dental practice. Don't forget to subscribe to the Dear Doc podcast on all major platforms.